After 5 years blind, he finally regained his sight. What he discovered left him heartbroken. Jake stood there, heart hammering in his chest as the moment he dreamed of stretched before him. 5 long years of darkness had robbed him of so much: his farm, his independence, but most painfully, the simple pleasure of watching his beloved Sarah and spirited son, Tommy, light up with joy. The warmth enveloped him as he remembered the sound of laughter that once filled their home. Now, every sound was tinged with the fear of disappointment. It was time to open his eyes. In a scramble of hope and worry, Jake lay on the hospital bed, the sterile smell of antiseptic filling his nostrils. He felt a gentle touch, Sarah's reassuring hand squeezing his. "You're going to be all right, love. Just as you promised," she whispered, her voice trembling. He nodded, believing her words more than he believed in himself. Finally, the doctor's voice cut through the air, the unmistakable excitement bubbling in his tone as he prepared to unveil the world anew. Then, the moment arrived. With a flicker of anticipation, Jake opened his eyes. The bright lights of the hospital dimmed into blurs and hues, but as his sight adjusted, panic seeped in. This was not the bright, hopeful world he'd imagined. It was dampened, worn down, much like the town he cherished. Maplewood lay before him like an empty shell. The once bustling main street was now lined with boarded-up stores and fading signs. The throbbing ache of reality crashed over him. The townsfolk who once rallied around them with love and compassion were silent now, shadows passing like ghosts, haunted by their own battles. Each shuttered window stung like a jab to his heart, and it felt as if the very essence of community was unraveling, leaving him threadbare and lost. An impending foreclosure loomed over his farm, a nightmare creeping closer as the world he fought for slipped through his fingers. Jake felt the tightening grip of betrayal within. Not just by fate, but by Maplewood itself. He was ready to confront the injustice that threatened not just his family, but all those he'd grown up with. With a flame sparked inside him, he decided to organize a community event a day to reignite pride and spirit. The excitement danced in him like a firefly trapped in a jar, but doubt loomed like dark clouds. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the day approached, murmurs filled the air. Many were eager to rally together, but others questioned Jake's vision. Unease spread like wildfire in the community, igniting old grievances and rivalries. Just when he thought hope flickered anew, a shocking family secret unraveled before him, one that exposed ties to Maplewood's ongoing struggles, sending Jake reeling. He stood at a crossroads, confronted by truths that shattered the foundation of his understanding. What if his family was intricately woven into the decline of the town he held dear? The weight of expectation strained against the fabric of his resolve. As he ascended the stage on the day of the event, the stakes weighed heavy on his heart. The future of his family, his town, they all rested on his choice today. Could he summon the courage to fight for what mattered, or would he retreat into despair? All eyes were on him, tensions rising, whispers of betrayal echoing around as he prepared for the fight of a lifetime. Jake stood in front of the crowd, his hands trembling slightly as he gripped the edges of the podium. Faces stared back at him, some filled with hope, others adorned with skepticism. It was a mixed bag of fear and a desperate craving for change. With every breath he took, the familiar scent of grass and damp earth surrounding the town wafted in his mind, reminding him of the vibrant days gone by. "Thank you all for being here," Jake began, his voice hoarse but steady. 5 years. 5 years in darkness. I can't even begin to describe how it feels to finally see again. He paused, glancing briefly at Sarah and Tommy, their supportive smiles filling him with warmth. Their presence was his anchor. But what I saw when I opened my eyes. He hesitated, swallowing hard. It wasn't the Maplewood I remembered. The town feels broken, and I'm not just here to talk about my recovery. I'm here because I believe we can make Maplewood great again. Together. A murmured wave passed through the crowd. The tension was palpable, and he could feel the weight of doubt pressing down on him. We face challenges, some of us more than others. But deep down, we all want the same thing. We want our families to thrive, our children to grow up in a place filled with hope and promise. His words spilled out like a lifeline, and he could see glimmers of understanding in the audience. Then a voice rang out from the back. It was David, a respected elder in the town whose family had rooted its legacy deep in Maplewood soil. And how do you plan to do that, Jake? Jake took a deep breath, considering the question. We come together. We breathe life back into this town. Every one of us has something to offer. I want to host a harvest festival, a day of unity. Games, music, food, all of it. But it'll take more than just me. It's going to take each one of you willing to put aside differences and remember what Maplewood truly is. That was it. His heart raced as he spoke, passion igniting within him. If we band together, we can bring in people from surrounding towns. We can show them who we are. We want to just rebuild our community. We'll revive it. We owe it to ourselves, to our families. Loud applause erupted suddenly, drowning out the silent murmurs. Hope flickered. Some even stood up, giving a slow yet deliberate clap. Jake felt energy surge through him, but others remained seated, arms crossed. Doubt lingered among a few stubborn hearts. As the clapping faded, Sarah stepped forward, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. I've seen those beautiful summer nights we spent on the porch, dreaming about our future. I want to let those memories fade, not without a fight. Jake's gaze caught Tommy's playful smile and carefree wave. In that moment, he felt fortified. With Sarah's support, he could face whatever came next. Then, as Jake was about to wrap up his speech, a figure appeared at the edge of the crowd, an old friend turned adversary, Mark. Their eyes locked, the air thick with memories and rivalry. It was his chance to confront the veiled tension that had haunted them for years. Mark, Jake called out boldly. It's time to set aside old grudges. We need each other more than ever. But the reluctant silence from Mark formed in a cloud of hostility. You don't know the whole story, Jake. What you think is a simple solution might just be scratching the surface of deeper problems. Jake's heartbeat quickened, a whirlwind of emotions crashing around him. What do you mean? He shot back, trying to keep his composure. As murmurs washed over the crowd again, one undeniable thought struck him hard. There were truths about Maplewood that even he wasn't ready to face. The moment hung heavy in the air, and Jake could feel the gravity of impending revelations crushing the hope he had kindled only moments before. What lay beneath the surface of Mark's words? Would they only ignite old wounds or guide them towards healing? All eyes remained fixed on the two of them, and Jake knew the next step in this journey was about to begin. But how deep did the wounds run? The crowd pulsed with a mix of anticipation and unease. Jake could feel eyes darting back and forth between him and Mark, each second stretching into an eternity. Silence hung heavy, laden with unspoken truths that lingered just out of reach. The warmth of his earlier zeal flickered, swaying beneath the weight of unknown threats. Mark, he urged softly, though the tremor in his voice betrayed him. What do you know? We can't heal if we're only looking at the surface. He took a step forward, closing the distance between them, every heartbeat echoing in his ears, a reminder that this moment could either breathe new life into Maplewood or shatter the fragile hope building before him. Mark's face hardened, his brow furrowing like an old map of scars. You think a party will fix the cracks? The heart of Maplewood isn't just bruised, it's broken, and it's breaking more each day. The challenge in his voice seemed to ripple through the crowd, each person beginning to feel the weight of their history. He continued, do you not remember the layoffs? The lost farms? People leaving for better lives? They still matter. Jake's own breath caught. He had been so focused on the celebration, on gathering everyone together, that he hadn't fully grasped the echoes of despair still haunting many in this town. I do remember, Mark. Believe me, I do. But it's a chance to begin again, a spark to reignite the spirit of this community. His plea resonated with some, yet others remained anchored in their doubts. A woman in the front row, Emma, who had once shared joyful evenings at the park, stood up. "And what about those of us who have lost everything? Can the past ever really be put aside? It's hard to trust when we've been let down time and time again." A murmur rolled through the crowd, a chorus of shared frustrations that transformed into expressions of fear. Logo-stamped memories of lost businesses and failed hopes swirled around. Each face told stories of loved ones who left, of families torn apart, of dreams dampened by the relentless march of time. In that moment, something began to shift in Jake. He realized that perhaps a mere celebration couldn't congeal the rifts built from years of heartache. "You're right," he said slowly, weighing every word. "We can't build tomorrow's dreams without addressing today's pain. Yes, we need a festival, but more than that, we need to have these uncomfortable conversations, the real discussions about what we've suffered." The atmosphere thickened with a collective sigh. Jake's heart raced. He finally felt that the connection he sought might just be found in vulnerability. "We can't gloss over the wounds," he continued, gathering strength from each supportive face in the crowd, "but we must also remember the fight and resilience that exists in each of us. If we stand together, we can bring back what's been lost step by step." "That's all well and good, Jake," Mark interjected again, his tone softer now, almost curious. "But how do you plan to address issues beyond the surface? Words alone won't fix what's been broken. People need to see real action." The challenge was out. Jake felt that this was more than a moment of reckoning, it was also a defining crossroads. He had sparked a conversation, one that might lead him to truths he hadn't wanted to confront. "Let's start by listening," he proposed, instinctively searching for a way forward. "What if we set up forums? Regular meetings to talk about our issues, about the real pain and the real solutions? To do this together, as a community." He noticed Sarah nodding, encouraged by his shift in approach. Hope glimmered again, though faintly. Maybe this time they could find a way to anchor themselves in honesty and tenderness, rather than denial and pride. As murmurings of interest began to circulate, Jake felt the ground shift beneath him. He reached out once more, purpose in his voice. "But I need each of you to believe too. Trust me, trust each other. That's the first step." Mark's eyes met Jake's, a shift slowly unfolding within the depths of their histories. Jake didn't know if it would be enough. Could they truly confront their past together? And there, poised between turmoil and healing, Jake discovered that every step nudged them closer to a truth he had yet to fully understand. The path to redemption was paved with hard conversations. But would the town, still reeling from years of hurt, be willing to take those steps? Hope twinkled uncertainly, a fragile light in the dark. The only question left was whether they would embrace it or let it slip away once more. The hum of electricity filled the air, but it wasn't from the lights strung overhead. It was the anxious energy of every heart beating in that gathering, a thrumming that echoed Jake's resolve. Each gaze trained on him felt like a weight, one that could either uplift or crush. "Listen," Jake began, taking a deep breath as his thoughts organized themselves. "This is about all of us finding our footing again. We've each got our stories, our pain. But they don't have to define our future." Several nods rippled through the crowd, yet doubt cast long shadows over hopeful faces. Mark's skepticism loomed large, as if it challenged the very air around them. "And if those stories hurt too much to share?" he asked, his voice heavy. "What do we do then? Just ignore the bitterness?" A flicker of frustration ignited in Jake. "No, we acknowledge it. We face it." He took a step back, glancing at the crowd, friends, neighbors, people tethered by both memories and shared disappointments. "It's okay to feel that hurt. But we can't let it paralyze us. We have to find a way to move forward." Quiet murmurs rose around him. Emma's eyes met his again, the question unspoken but clear. How? Maybe Jake paused, contemplating everything he had pulled into this moment. "Maybe we could begin by forming small groups, trusted corners where we can share freely. Let us talk about our stories, the hurt that lingers, but then also share hopes for what can be. From there, we can organize ourselves, find tangible steps to heal what needs fixing." Mark's incredulous gaze softened slightly. And you think that will work? Just like that? There's no magic in it, Jake replied, his voice steady but earnest. It's about commitment. And being together. Community is like a fire, it needs tending and care. The spark can't ignite if we don't even try. A small voice broke the tension. What if no one shows up? It was a teenager, standing at the back, the uncertainty on his face mirroring that of his peers. What if, after all this, nobody wants to talk? What if Jake countered gently, leaning forward into the shared stillness? What if they do? What if that spark catches fire? People might surprise you, might want to be heard more than anything. Hope flickered again, this time stronger. A few attendees began discussing amongst themselves, their voices weaving encouragement into the air. Reaction rippled back toward Jake. It was the quiet sound of grace pushing against resistance. Mark took a deep breath, and his eyes revealed a budding shift resistance, tinted with curiosity. Guess it couldn't hurt to try, he said, softer now. But it means everyone needs to show up. Not just for the pretty words, but for real honesty. Exactly. Jake exclaimed, excitement bubbling within him, escaping in a bright smile. We can create a schedule. Make it consistent. Every week. Same place. Those who want to heal from the past should have a space to speak and listen. The idea glimmered in the air, and for the first time, Jake felt lightness creeping back into their tense atmosphere. But he realized it wouldn't be easy. It will take courage. But we've already shown courage by standing here today. And it's okay to take baby steps. As the crowd began to buzz with the notion, familiar faces brightening with tentative hope, Jake felt a stirring within himself. Could they really do this? It was uncharted territory, a path filled with rough edges and uncertainties. With newfound determination, he raised his voice once more. We can reclaim Maplewood, piece by piece. But only if we're willing to face our truths together. This is our moment. The energy surged, an intimate bond being formed between him and the people taking those first steps towards healing. Laughter erupted from somewhere near the back, a sound that felt brimming with possibility. Then a tremor of doubt flickered in the back of his mind. Would they truly return next week, ready to share their stories? Could the fragile connection they formed withstand the tests that lay ahead? As Jake looked around at those gathering, warm smiles began to replace frowns. The path ahead remained uncertain, but for the first time, there was a glimmer of possibility in the darkness. The real challenge was just beginning. And as they walked away, he could almost hear the whispered question, mingled with their laughter. What happens when the words finally surface? In the days leading to their first meeting, Jake wrestled with a cocktail of excitement and apprehension. Each moment brought a sense of urgency to finalize details, yet the worry nagged at him. Would they really show up? Doubts crept in, whispering fears of empty chairs and unanswered questions. He spent those nights making plans, pen in hand, spreading papers over his kitchen table. Ideas for group names danced around his mind, Maplewood Voices, the Healing Circle. They all sounded good, but none quite captured the weight he felt pressing down. He needed something that echoed the essence of their struggle and strength. When the day came, he found himself pacing in the community center 2 hours ahead of time. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sterile glow over the room, and Jake wiped his palms on his jeans, his heart matching the rhythm of his shifting footing. He arranged chairs in a circle, a space intended for honesty and vulnerability. Moments bled into minutes. Doubt dripped into his resolve like a slow, cold rain. Just as he contemplated whether he had miscalculated, the door creaked open. It was Emma, her face a shade brighter than he remembered. There was a spark of courage in her eyes that calmed him a little. "Hey," he greeted her, gesturing to a chair. "You really came." "Of course," she said, settling in with a nervous laugh. "I thought I'd see how this goes. I believe in what you're trying to do." One by one, other familiar faces trickled in, Mark with a sheepish smile, the teenager from before, and a few more. The modest gathering felt like a blossoming dream, each presence strengthening the bond Jake sought to create. As the clock struck 6, he stood again, the familiar warmth of resolve beating in his chest. Thank you for being here. This is our safe space. We're all here because we want to understand our stories and where they intersect and how we can support each other. He watched as the initial tension slowly dissipated, laughter occasionally breaking through the awkward silence. People exchanged tentative glances, a shared understanding binding them together. An atmosphere of trust began to take shape, and Jake felt both exhilarated and terrified. Emma broke the ice, taking a breath that seemed larger than her small frame. "I lost my mom last year," she said quietly. "It took me a long time to even talk about it. I felt so lost." The room quieted, the weight of her words hanging like thick mist. But in her honesty laid an invitation, a doorway for others to step through. "I've been carrying my grief around for years, like an extra layer of clothing I never wanted," Mark added. "Sometimes I feel like I can't breathe." The vulnerability spilled into the space like magic, drawing people out. As each story emerged, Jake felt a mixture of relief and sorrow. They were stories of hope and despair, moments of triumph beaten back by heartbreak. Suddenly, a hand shot up one of the younger members, a girl who had sat quietly. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I mean, how can we fix all the hurt?" Jake sensed a swell of emotions pooling. There wasn't a quick fix, no pat answers to hand out. But hope shimmered in the air like sunlight filtering through leaves. He met her gaze, sincerity reflecting back. "We start by being here for one another. By listening, by sharing. We allow ourselves to be raw, to let the words flow. That's the first step." As the night wore on, laughter emerged, not as a mask, but as relief after the acknowledgement of pain. They shared the laughter mingling with tears, revealing their collective strength hiding beneath those layers of hurt. But as Jake later walked home, an ache filled his chest. What if they faltered? He was met with the stark realization that they were not out of the woods yet. Healing was a convoluted path, often twisted and steep. Could they sustain this momentum? Would they continue to show up? Jake's heart raced as he imagined possibilities, his thoughts spiraling tinged with both hope and fear. Tomorrow would hold new challenges and unforeseen revelations. But one question gnawed at him like a persistent itch. What happens when the past refuses to let go? The next morning came, heavy with anticipation. Jake sprang from his bed, his mind swirling with thoughts from the meeting. Responses from everyone played on repeat in his head, each voice filled with a blend of pain and hope. Yet, beneath it all, an unsettling question grew more persistent. Would they return? Would he be able to hold their fragile trust? As he made his morning coffee, he tried to shake off the weight of uncertainty. The sound of gurgling water filled the silence, a reminder that life continued even when shadows loomed. He decided to prepare himself for the upcoming session, pulling together supportive materials and discussing strategies for maintaining engagement. He knew that healing wasn't a straight line. This was only the beginning. By the time he arrived at the community center, the sun hung lazily in the sky, casting long shadows that danced on the pavement. It felt quieter today, almost too still, and Jake's heart quickened as he stepped inside. The room looked as he had left it, a circle of chairs beckoning for their stories. He wondered if he'd misread the collective spirit they had shared. Maybe it had been a fleeting moment. But there, in one corner, his heart leaped. Emma was already seated, nervously tapping her fingers against her thigh. "Hey," she smiled, and it gave Jake a jolt of warmth. "I was hoping I'd see you here." "Me too," he replied, his smile widening. Her courage sparked his own, and he felt more settled as others drifted in, one by one, filling the circle with more energy than he had dared to hope for. "I think last night was really something," Mark said as he sat down across from Jake. "I didn't expect it to feel, so real." "Yeah," Jake agreed, leaning forward. "It's like we unlocked something by just being honest with each other. How do we keep that going?" A few heads nodded, and the energy shifted. They were all wrestling with the same question. "Maybe we can start with more sharing," Emma suggested, her voice steadying as she spoke. "We can make this a safe space to try and talk about what scares us." Everyone leaned in, hooked onto her idea. They began discussing what held them back, the constant pull of their pasts. Each story that unfolded was laced with vulnerability, Yet whispered notes of resilience surfaced amidst pain. Jake felt a connection deepen among them, layers of hurt slowly peeling back, but just as laughter bubbled up in a moment of relief, a shadow fell over the group. A newcomer stepped into the room, her face a mask of worry. "I heard about what you're doing," she said, her voice trembling. "I lost my brother last month and I just don't know how to deal with it." The laughter faded as the group fell silent, the weight of the newcomer's pain enveloping them. Jake felt every pair of eyes turn toward him, the burden of leadership heavy on his shoulders. "Come in," he urged softly, beckoning her to join their circle. "You're not alone." The newcomer took a hesitant step. She settled into an empty chair, her tension palpable. "I just keep wondering if I'll ever stop feeling this way," she confessed, tears glistening in her eyes. "Just take it one day, one moment at a time," Jake encouraged gently. "We're here with you every step of the way." As the group welcomed her, Jake's heart thudded with understanding their stories were mingling, intertwining like roots in soil. A new layer of emotion shifted as they supported the stranger, showing her the same kindness they had begun to share among themselves. Still, despite the warmth of the moment, a lingering doubt echoed in Jake's heart. Would their bond be enough to weather new challenges? As they wrapped up, he felt uncertainty fill the air. What if sharing only opens old wounds? What if I can't help them or they can't help me? Even as the day drew to a close, Jake's mind raced with questions. The journey ahead loomed larger than life, and he sensed that the hardest parts were still hiding in the shadows. But one thought anchored him: what if by facing those wounds together, they could heal in ways he never imagined? The following week felt like a whirlwind. Each day blended into the next as Jake sought ways to help his growing group confront their emotional pain. They were tackling topics he never dreamed they'd address. Still, the new member, Sarah, lingered in his thoughts. Her broken voice echoed, begging for reassurance. "Do you think it will really work?" Emma asked him during one of their planning sessions. The question cut through Jake's hopes like cold air. "I don't know," he admitted, feeling resistance trying to pull his spirit down. "But I think it's worth trying. We're all in this together like a team." A sense of purpose filled the room, igniting renewed determination. They discussed ways to create an inviting atmosphere. Posters with uplifting quotes added a light touch. Photos from happier times sparked conversations, all serving as bridges to the stories that needed to surface. As the next meeting approached, Jake felt excitement mingle with anxiety. Would Sarah return? Would any of them? That evening, he found himself pacing the community center before the session began, running his hands over the chairs, imagining the conversations that hadn't yet been shared. Just then, familiar faces began to appear. First came Mark, then Emma, and soon enough, the circle was nearly complete. Then, like a miracle, Sarah walked through the door. Her eyes were shaded, but determination shone through as she stepped forward. Jake's heart lifted, but anxiety lingered. The circle was full. Shadows of unspoken pain hung in the air. "Welcome back, Sarah." "We're so glad you're here," he greeted her, hoping his words reached her. Her breath came in shaky bursts. "I didn't know what to expect coming here again. I felt so lost." "But that's why we're here," Emma encouraged, gesturing for her to sit down in the circle. "You don't have to feel lost anymore." This time, a warmth filled the room as they settled into the comfort of shared vulnerability. One by one, stories poured out without hesitation, each one resonating with elements of love, loss, and hope. Jake felt the weight on his shoulders begin to lift. Conversations bounced from person to person, laughter punctuated their heartbreak, and he realized they were beginning to build something powerful together. But as the night wore on, Sarah hesitated. "What if it hurts too much?" she whispered, glancing around the circle, eyes wide with fear. Jake's heart pounded. He knew the answer. It might. But sometimes, we have to face the hurt to find healing. You're not alone. It helps when we lean on each other. With a deep breath, Sarah finally spoke. "I want to try." As she shared her story, the room held its breath. Her brother's memory flowed like a river, carving through the landscape of her grief. With every word, Jake felt the energy shift, transforming the pain into something sacred, something shared. The silence that followed was electric. A collective understanding washed over them. But just then, the door creaked open. A new figure emerged, a man with weary eyes and clenched fists. "I came to find my sister. I heard she might be here." Jake's pulse quickened. Who is this man, and what did he bring along with him? As the group looked at him in confusion, Jake's gut churned. Another layer of struggle approached, and he wondered, could they withstand this new storm together? Would they still have the strength to support one another? He glanced around at their faces, hope nestled under the uncertainty. What secrets would this newcomer unveil? The room fell silent, the air thick with unanswered questions as the man stepped further into the dimly lit community center. Sensing the sudden shift in energy, Jake took a step forward, maintaining a calm facade despite the turmoil brewing inside. "Can I help you?" Jake called out, his voice steady though his heart raced. The man looked around, his gaze landing on Sarah, who sat frozen, her face drained of color. "Sarah?" he said, his voice urgent yet tender, like a wave crashing softly against the shore. "It's me, Dave." Recognition flickered in Sarah's eyes, a flame fighting against the shadows. "Dave?" she whispered, her voice barely there. Tears pooled as she searched her brother's face for something she'd lost long ago. The group shifted, their vulnerability now teetering on the edge of a more complex pain. Mark leaned forward, eyeing the newcomer with suspicion, while Emma clasped Sarah's hand tightly, a silent pledge of support. "Why are you here?" Sarah managed, her voice trembling as the memory of their shared past tugged at her heart. "You left." "I had to," Dave replied, frustration spilling into the air. "You know that. I thought I was protecting you." Jake felt a knot twist in his stomach. This was not just a reunion, it was potentially a reawakening of Sarah's pain. He moved closer, protective instincts kicking in. "This is a safe space for everyone, but we need to move slowly. Sarah, would you like to talk with him?" For a moment, the weight of silence descended, cocooning them all as if time had stopped. Sarah hesitated, her brows knitted together. The mention of hurt felt palpable, almost tangible. She struggled to find her voice, fighting the storm within her. After a deep breath, she finally spoke. "I don't understand why you came back now." "I couldn't stay away any longer," Dave said, pleading with his eyes. "I've been lost too, Sarah. I hoped you would understand." Anger flashed across Sarah's face, a raw mix of emotions bubbling up. "You hope I'd understand? You left me when I needed you the most. I lost my way because of you." Jake felt the sadness surrounding them, waves of grief crashing against one another. Could they navigate this jagged sea together? His heart ached for Sarah, for the turmoil she had endured. Emma squeezed Sarah's hand tighter, whispering, "You don't have to carry this burden alone anymore." Dave stepped closer, his own heart breaking as he locked eyes with his sister. "I want to help you carry it, Sarah. Please let me in." Jake listened intently, picking up on the vulnerability spreading within the room. This was more than just a reunion, it was an emotional upheaval that could either heal or tear them apart. He needed to help them find a way to support each other before the current of emotions swept them away. "Maybe this is the moment we need to feel everything," Jake chipped in, his voice firm yet gentle. "It's okay to unravel, to hurt. Sometimes that's how we rebuild. You're not alone in this, Sarah. We're all here for you." Just when the tension began to ease, a raised voice interrupted. "Is this really the place to hash out family drama? Or is it just for self-pity?" A voice pierced through the air, heavy with judgment and anger. Jake's heart sank. They were all at various stages of vulnerability, each person on the brink of discovery. Could they withstand this clash? He sensed the shifting dynamics, ready for what was to come. Could they hold each other up in the face of this growing turmoil? Would they find the strength to face both the past and the potential of the future? The air hummed with uncertainty, while Jake's mind raced. What would happen now as old wounds threatened to resurface? And would Sarah find the strength to confront the brother who had hurt her? The voice hung in the air, sharp and cutting. Jake turned to see a woman, Kathy, a member of their weekly group, arms crossed defensively. Her posture screamed impatience, as if she couldn't understand the weight of what was unfolding. Do you really want to air this out here in front of all of us? The words struck Jake like a slap, fracturing the fragile moment. Sarah's shoulders dropped, and her eyes darted to the floor, as if the ground might open up and swallow her. Emma stood, ready to say something, to defend her friend, but Jake raised a hand to stop her. He felt the tension crackling in the air, simmering like a pressure cooker. They needed to keep this space as safe as possible, but he also could feel Kathy's point. Discomfort sprang from a place of truth. Look, I get that this is hard for everyone, Jake said softly, focusing on the group's collective heartache. But healing isn't a tidy process. Sometimes it means confronting things we'd rather push aside. I don't know if I want to witness this, Kathy shot back, her voice tight with skepticism. Dave stepped in, still standing just inside the doorway, his hands slightly raised and trembling. Please, I didn't come here to hurt Sarah again. His voice cracked, and Jake could see the rawness in his eyes. I want my sister back. That was the moment Sarah looked up. Her gaze, previously filled with resentment, shifted to a mixture of hope and confusion. For the first time, she really looked at Dave. What her brother had done to her was rooted in deep pain, and yet, here he was broken in his own right. Maybe being vulnerable isn't just about our past, Emma whispered, her grip on Sarah's hand still reassuring. Maybe it's about our futures too. A sigh of awareness swept through the group as they absorbed Emma's words. This wasn't just airing dirty laundry. It was about creating something new from old wounds. Could they really pave the way for the difficult conversations ahead? The room was charged with shifting energy, but the tension remained. Jake took a breath, looking at Sarah expectantly. She was the heart of this moment. Everyone had their own struggles, their own stories, and yet, all eyes were on her. Sarah, he murmured, if you want to speak, we're here to listen. She blinked, slowly regaining her composure. Taking a deep breath, she finally said, I don't know what to say, I've just been navigating so much hurt, why would I let you back in now, after everything? I don't expect forgiveness, Dave said, his voice barely above a whisper, but I hope if we can face this darkness together, maybe then we can find the light. That sudden glimmer of willingness transformed the air. It felt like a window cracked open to let in daylight. But there remained a shadow, the uncertainties that came with reconciling their pain. What if you hurt me again? Sarah's voice trembled, cracking under the weight of her fears. Jake stiffened, sensing the fragility of the moment, the risk of opening old wounds too wide. Would everyone here step forward to heal, or would someone pull back, retreating into their pain? Kathy opened her mouth to respond, but before she could say anything, a loud crash echoed from behind them. The sound of metal meeting floor startled everyone, casting their eyes to the source. What the hell was that? Mark exclaimed, turning sharply. Jake's heart raced again as anxiety flooded back in. Whatever had fallen had disrupted everything, pulling them away from what could have been a breakthrough. But just as quickly, he felt the weight of determination settle back into him. They would figure this out, this raw, messy thing called healing, but as they turned to face the new interruption, Jake knew this was just the beginning. What awaited them beyond that crush? And how would it challenge their fragile resolve? Jake stood at the front of the community center, heart racing again as the sound of falling chairs echoed through the crowd. He could feel the energy shift. Hope and fear danced in the room like it was alive. This was the moment where everything could change, or where everything could crumble. Is everyone okay? He called out, tension thickening the air. A few heads turned, but mostly people were locked in the raw moment, absorbing what had just unfolded. Sarah's gaze remained fixed on her brother, her emotions churning underneath the surface. The chair that had tipped over belonged to Mark. He was jittery and agitated. Can we focus here? We need to deal with the issues at hand, not get distracted by family drama. His voice boomed, cutting through the fragility in the air, but it was that underlying agitation that stirred something deep in Jake. He just couldn't ignore the moment any longer, the way all of their individual pains intertwined in a mess of shared history. Hold on, Jake said, grabbing everyone's attention. This isn't just about Sarah and Dave. This is about all of us. Just like every story we share creates echoes that ripple through our community. The air filled with murmurs, some in agreement, others filled with doubts. Mark's frown deepened, but the passion in Jake's voice cradled everyone in the room. We can bear witness to each other. We can lift each other up. I left to protect her. Dave's voice quaked, filled with desperation. I couldn't handle the burden of losing her to watch her suffer. But I realize now that it was a mistake to run from it. Tears shimmered in Sarah's eyes. You think disappearing was the answer? You thought your pain would protect me? A profound silence draped across the room as Sarah's pain swept through them like a tide. Everyone in the circle felt the weight of her hard question, some bowing their heads in understanding. I didn't think it through, Dave replied, stepping closer. I was scared I wouldn't be enough. I see now how my choice hurt myself. Jake's heart ached at the rawness of the moment. This was no longer just about a wounded family, it was about a community grappling with scars from the past, collectively confronting their fears. We need to remember that healing is not a straight line, he interjected gently. Forgiveness is complicated. Feeling fear is okay, it's absolutely natural. But will they come back? Kathy's hard exterior softened slightly, and her expression shifted. Will we remember to reach out, to rebuild what we lost? How do we trust again? The question hung heavy, each person wrestling with it in their own way. Mark, looking more vulnerable than before, nodded in understanding. I think we need support. We can't do it alone. Jake felt a swell of determination rise within him. So, let us find strength in what we create together, he proposed. Every day holds a chance for us all. We need a space to keep honoring this vulnerability. A gentle nod from Sarah drew everyone's attention, her face warming with understanding. Maybe that's how we move forward to support each other as we share the hurt, but also the healing. Let us do it, Jake said, pointing out a new sign at the back of the room that read, Together we heal. Light can come from one spark, and together, we can be the flames of change. Finally, the energy in the room shifted. Uncertainty took root, but alongside it, there was tangible resolve. They had begun to lay down the groundwork for something special. Each story they shared added bricks to a new foundation, where old wounds became gateways to connection. Over the next weeks, they gathered in the community center, fueled by stories of resilience. The chairs now lined the room, filled with voices offering laughter and tears alike. They turned the darkness into dialogues that thrived with warmth and acceptance. Together, they formed Maplewood Resilience, and it became a haven for shared understanding, an anchoring space to navigate their legacies, both beautiful and broken. Jake stood in front of the community that now felt like a united family. Steps were taken all hesitantly at first, but as time wore on, hope blossomed. Their trials became threads woven into a rich tapestry of humanity that they could all relate to. As the first thaw of spring settled over Maplewood, Jake looked around, feeling both gratitude and pride swelling in his heart. They had weathered storms together, faced fears and hurt, and slowly, just slowly, elements of love returned to the town. Remember, he said to the group one crisp evening, we'll always be navigating together. Life isn't ever stagnant. It flows, it ebbs. Let us keep this circle growing. Let us ignite more sparks. Cheers erupted from the group, and each applause echoed with the hope, strength, and connection they had built together. Maplewood thrived under the weight of their collective narratives, healing one heart at a time. Jake turned to look at Sarah standing beside him, her radiant smile mirrored by Tommy's enthusiasm. Family, community, healing all entwined. He finally understood. Sometimes, vision isn't about sight. It's about seeing the strength in each other, resurrecting lives from the ashes of despair. As twilight descended, a sense of newfound belonging wrapped around them like an embrace. This was not the end, but just the beginning. One step after another, perched on the edge of hope, they were ready to soar. Now it's your turn to be part of this journey. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you never miss the next exclusive stories that inspire change. Don't wait not even one more second, leave a like now and help spread the word. Comment below with your thoughts on the ending. I can't wait to hear your feelings, and share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to show your support together. We are building a community.